Well, good evening and welcome back. Tonight I've got something a little different. This is an AWA B60 transistor radio. This was built in Australia by AWA back in about 68, I think they were around. They were called the swinging brick. Now the idea was that it's curved on the bottom there, you could put your hand under it and travel around being all cool. Now I had one of these when I was 16. I went and bought it, and probably I had a paper round and I saved up my money, and I think it was about $20. I could be wrong with that. My paper round money was about $4 a week, so it was nearly 5 weeks worth of pay to get paid for one of these. Now I used this well into my 30s and possibly 40s, and I used it everywhere. I carried it everywhere, had it running all the time. And it ended up in a box, and I dug it out some years later. The battery leaked inside it, and that was the end of it. I threw it out. Now I've been looking for one of these, and I asked a friend of mine to keep an eye out. He's also into radio collecting, and he sent me an email saying, hey, there's one down in Geelong in Victoria. So I contacted the gentleman, and he very kindly posted it up to me, and here it is. This was sold as a swinging brick, and it had a lanyard on there on mine. I'm sure of it. Anyway, must be imagining it. All right. Now you probably noticed that the tuning's on the front here, but there's no volume, but it's on the back. Also the tuning wheel comes all the way through, so you can grip either side of it at once and tune it. So I'll just take that back off. That's pretty much how I remember it. That's loose. Now these took a long 9-volt battery. I think it was a 2362 or something like that, ever-ready number. It used to keep me broke pumping batteries into it, but anyway, they've put that in with Celastic or silicon, and there's a paper wedge in there holding the holding the tuning. There's a condenser inside the wheel, so that's pretty cool. The first thing to do is see if it even works, I guess. So I've got a 9-volt supply there, so I'll just connect that on. Got it the right way around, yeah, and see if it works. Well, it does work. The volume control's got some issues, but that'll be cleaned up all right. That's very hard to turn that tuning knob. I'm going to pull it all apart. I'll take everything out. There's obviously a bracket that's broken off the ferrite rod there, and there's another one there, and they've just glued it in. Goodness knows what's happened here. It looks like a plastic frame that it's mounted on that's probably broken down that end or something. The outside case is pretty good. Doesn't look like it's been dropped, so I don't know how all this fell apart. There's the mount the tuning capacitor's mounted on, and it's just broken that off. What I might do would be to glue perhaps a bit of aluminium on there and replace that foot that's broken off. There's no point gluing that on, it'll just fall off again. Now another thing I'll do is replace the electrolytics. There's not too many in here. There's 1, 2, there's 3 or so there, and 4 on that one. There's another one down here. So I'll replace those. So really it's just a matter of cleaning up the case and just repairing the damaged clips and broken bits of plastic, so I can remount these properly. And I'll have my childhood radio back. Well, not really a child, I was 16. I've removed the tuning dial, and it's not too bad, except it's all scraped along there. Now whether or not I'll bother trying to reinstate the orange, at least, I'll think about that one. The other problem this radio had was a very scratchy volume control, so I'm just taking the control wheel off. And you can't see the wiper. I'll get a bit of spray in there somehow. I've just lifted that protective cover there, and I've just screwed a bit of deoxide in there, and it really just needs the smallest amount. That'll be plenty. Right, I've put some power on. I'll just see how the volume controls come up.
Since that date, since the 20th of March, and the Department of Social Services is expecting that figure to rise even further today, saying the prediction is that there will be another 400,000 people that will be on job seeker payment by...
Well, that's odd. It's not doing anything for the first half, and then the volume goes up.
The additional money is in place until September.
And you can't turn it down, so yeah, it looks like something has gone wrong inside there. So I think I'll change some of the capacitors and see how we go with that. I've changed all the electrolytic caps, so we'll just see if it still works. 9 volts, there you go. Yeah, that volume control's got a fault in it, so I don't know if I can dismantle it and bend something back or what's happened to it. There's a circlip on the back here, and I've just managed to spread it. And does that let me take that off and push it through? Nope. It turns out there's another circlip there, so I'll see if I can get that off. Just using a couple of screwdrivers, I managed to get that one out as well, so now it should come through. Okay. There's the two little wipers. They look alright. It'll be the track that'll be damaged. There it is there. There's no track there, so there's no resistance there. So if I'd measured across there, there's probably nothing. So what have we got? Nothing. Yeah, it's open circuit. Okay. I'll have to see if I can source a new volume control. Well, a quick search online shows you can't get these volume pots very easily, which surprised me. I thought they'd be available. But while I was searching, I thought, what about an old clock radio? They've got the same sort of thumb dial thing, thumb dial action. There's the thumb dial out of my radio. That fits alright. Now I've just put my meter across the resistive strip, and this one's working out to about 23k. Now I can't accurately measure the other one because a third of it's missing, but looks like it would end up about 10k, so it's going to be about double what it needs to be. I've tacked the new volume pot in the radio there. That's a good shot. I'll just see what it does. I've got power on here.
This goes on too long, and pain and the social dislocation from coronavirus.
Well, it is working, but it's the ratios are all wrong. There's virtually no volume at the bottom, and it's all at the top. But so I think I'll put this in for the time being. I can't get any more of these things. They're around somewhere. You get them in the US and the UK and other parts of Europe, but there's nothing in Australia I can find at all. Okay, I've retrofitted that now, and it's all soldered in. I just put the wrong wheel on there for a sec. Yeah, it's all out of whack, but it's working alright, so until I can source another one, I can't see what else I can do. Now you'll notice it stopped working there. I had to belt that board there to make it come back. I wonder what's going on there. There's something wrong in that board, I think. Oh, how about that? Alright, something's going on. It did it once before I did anything to it, so it wasn't something I've done. So I'll inspect all the base of the board here, see if there's something loose. So I'll have to have a look at that. Now I've spent a considerable amount of time working on this, and I've worked out it's in this area here. I resoldered the entire board and I retraced all the tracks with solder. I then scrubbed it all down. I can't see any issues, but it's difficult to see, but I think this solder tab here has lifted off the board. So I resoldered that and the little link here where it linked into the track, and it's come good, so I think that's it. So I'm going to replace these resistors. When I cleaned the board off, I cleaned the paint off the resistors as well. I'm going to replace those, and we'll see if that fixes it. Now, I'm pretty sure that was it. I've run the leg of the new resistor across here to pick up the leg coming off this transformer. So I've bypassed that little track if the track was at fault. And the tab had lifted off the board, so it was kind of floating. So there's a good chance that was broken. Just having a look at that resistor I pulled out. It's supposed to be 56k, and I just put it on the meter here, and it's goes over to megs. You got half a meg there, or 6.6 of a meg. I'm squeezing it together. I get it down to 75. Yeah. So maybe the resistor was faulty. Anyway, it's working. I want to check the adjustment of the output idling current. I believe this is to set the bias for the two output transistors, which are in a push-pull configuration, and to make sure that it's distortion free where they go from positive to negative, where the two transistors switch on and off, so they're not misaligned and you get a bit of distortion. I believe they call it crossover distortion. I'm not going to go any further than that because I really don't understand it enough to try and tell anybody else. So I'm going to leave it at this stage, and I keep reading and learning these things, so that's what I'm here for. Just reading the instructions I've got. There's the test point there. This is a little wander lead or a fly lead, and this is the positive supply from the battery. Now I've unsoldered it already. I just need to pull this wander lead out, and we leave that adrift, and we take the supply lead off, and I'm going to connect a meter there, an ammeter, milliammeter. So one lead goes on the test point. We'll just get rid of that wire, and the other lead goes on here. There we go. And there's a little adjustable resistor in here, a little variable resistor. And I think that balances the base bias on the two transistors when I adjust this. Now I've got the volume on minimum, that's what it says. I'm going to put exactly 9 volts in, which I've got. Now, I'm going to use my old Weston meter here. That runs at 20,000 ohms per volt, which is what the little manual says. We're on this lower scale here, 0, 2, 4. So we need between 2.5 and 3. So we're on just over 4 there. I'll just turn that down. And there's 3 coming up. There it is. And we want between this 2.5 there. So I'll put it about the middle. That's about it there. 275 odd. Alright, I'll leave that there. It looks pretty close. Now all that's left now is for me to take the 2 clips off there, and I'll resolder the wires back on the test point. Now this loop stick antenna was held in there originally with a couple of clamps around here. They're mounted on those 2 screws there, and the clamps went around the loop stick and held it in place. So I might try and reproduce some. This is unusual because it's squared off or rectangular shape. Most of them are round and you just use a normal clamp, but I can't do it with this one. So what I'm thinking of doing is making a mould and using my smooth cast 2-part plastic mix to reproduce a new clamp. So I'm going to use a ice cream stick and shape it around the shape I want, then put it in some plasticine and see if I can reproduce it. I measured the loop stick, it's 19 by 6. I'm just going to make it a bit bigger, give us some room. So I'll make it 20 by 7. I'm just going to go along and mark the stick off here. There's 20, there's 7. The last 20, that's a bit off there. I'll move that up. Now I'm just going to score this with a knife where the marks are. And I'll bend those there at the mark. Another one there. There's our shape. This is the second one I made of these. I made the other one a bit tight, so I cut that bit out. Yeah, that'll do good. It's a bit sloppy, but I'm going to glue this in with some hot glue, so it won't really matter. I think that'll work. I'm going to glue all these joints together, and I'm going to cut this off, and that'll give me the little leg that it needs to sit on. I'll see how we go. Now, while I'm waiting for that glue to dry, this little bracket that's holding the tuner and the volume control, that's broken off there. So I'm going to just cut up a bit of aluminium and bend it around there and make a new foot for it. This will be plenty strong enough. So I'm just going to mark it out using the old bit as a template. And that needs to come up another 10 millimeters there to let me bend it around the corner. I actually need to add about 14 mil, so we'll go there. Cool. I'm just going to cut this with a pair of snips. Drill a little hole in there in the corner so we can cut into it. That removes any stresses you might build up in the aluminium. Not that it's going to be under a great amount of stress. Alright, I'll just clean all that up. Now I've cleaned the little bracket up and bent it. And there it goes there. I had to remove a bit of material on the plastic there to allow for the thickness of the aluminium plate there, so I've done that as well. Now just a matter of putting a slotted hole in the aluminium there and good to go. There it is. So that's come up alright. I put a slotted hole in it, and it's got plastic on it. I'll just peel that off. I'll glue it on with some JB Weld, and when it's dry I'm going to put a bit of spray on it just to kind of get rid of the silver colour and make it look off-white. There you go. Cool. I've glued a little bracket on there, and I've mounted the whole thing back in its little chassis there to line up the screw holes, make sure they all line up. And I've put a clamp on there, and I'll just put that aside for a day and let it set. I'll try and polish this case up a bit while I'm waiting for the other things to dry. This one's not too bad. I've cleaned it. I've scrubbed out the dirt from in the little grooves and things. It's got a lot of little scratches over it. So I'll just see. This is just automotive polish. This should bring it back pretty good. That's come very well actually. There's a bit of a mark there still from whatever was on there. Gee, that's come up well. Okay, well, I'm going to keep doing all that. That's coming up pretty well. It needs more work. This is the coarsest grade I've got, so I'm going to do another polishing grade. It's got a bit of a nick in there. I'll have to do something to get into this screw hole that attaches the two halves. But I think it'll look alright. Yeah, looks good. It's got most of it out of there. Bit around the corners, so I can get that out later. Well, there it is. It's all polished up. It's not perfect, but not bad for, I don't know, for how old it is, 50 years or something. Bloody hell, it would be 50 years too. It doesn't tell you much from my age, does it? Alright, there's my little mould. What I did was go around and put some body filler in there and squared it all up and try to reinforce that edge in there. And I've put some little bits of body filler inside there and then squared it out again just to make it a nice sort of rounded edge inside. What I'm going to do is glue this dowel onto the side here, and that way I can plunge it into the plasticine and pull it out, and it'll go in nice and straight, because I don't want to wobble it on the way out or wobble it on the way in, because it'll make the mould bigger than it should be. Alright, so I'll just let that set. I'll set it down somewhere and let it go off for a couple of hours. Okay, I'm ready to make some moulds. I've got some plasticine here. The mould is in the chuck of my drill press, and hopefully I can just push straight down. I've sprayed the mould with some silicone spray just to help it come out, I hope. So let's give this a go. I'm not sure what's going to happen. Will it come out? What I want it, yes, that's what I thought was going to happen. And I'll do another one there. I was going to try and do 3, but obviously it's not going to work. So. Well, there they are. They've come out pretty good actually. So I'll go inside and mix up some 2-part plastic, pour it in there, and see how they come out. This is the 2-part plastic I'm going to use. It's called Smooth Cast, and this is 300. I think that means it sets in 10 minutes. There's different grades there, so you can have faster or slower setting. Okay, I've mixed up the Smooth Cast. I'm just going to pour it in here. We'll see what happens. The next time you see that, it'll be pure white and we'll demold it and see how we went. There they are. I hope this works. I'm not sure how tough this plastic's going to be. It's come out a bit tapered. I think the plastic expands a bit as it sets. So that's going to take a bit of work. I'll have to try and file it or something. Yeah, look at that. Okay, it's a little disappointing, but I think it'll be okay. Yeah, that one's the same. Yes, it's put quite a V on it, hasn't it? So the problem, I guess, is this plasticine just gives. Would have been all right if it had grown straight out the top and not pushed sideways. But anyway, that's okay. I can work around that. Well, I'll go out to the workshop and just start cleaning these up. It shouldn't be too bad, actually. I'll just put them on the little sanding wheel and clean them up here. So that'll be pretty easy. That's about as good as I can get that. It hasn't come out quite as good as I'd hoped. Well, it should work. I'm not happy with these, so I'm going to have another go and just do it slightly different, see if I can get a better result. This time I've coated the mould with some petroleum jelly. See if that makes it release a bit easier. Alright, I'll give that a go. Well, this is the second pair and they've come out better than the first. They're not perfect, but until I get some proper moulding compound, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it properly. That Play-Doh really doesn't do it. So that fits on there alright, and they'll mount pretty good. And they're remarkably strong, actually. I thought they might sort of bend a bit, but they're good. Now there's a little bracket I made. It's the glue's dried now. So I'm just going to clean all the excess adhesive off, and I'm going to give it a quick squirt with some off-white paint so it doesn't stick out as much. It looks like everything's ready to go back together. I've mounted the capacitor and the volume control switch already. That needed to be aligned, so that was a bit fiddly. So I've done that, and that repair fitted quite well. The first thing I need to do is mount the speaker. Alright, that's done. There's a little insulator that goes on there. I've put some adhesive on there, so that just sits there. Okay, so I've positioned that board. We'll just put a screw in there. I've already put my rather crudely made plastic brackets there. I painted them black in the end, just to make them look a bit better. Now, as crudely made as these brackets are, they're actually quite good. Nice, stiff, they're good. The last board to put in is this little amplifying board here. So we'll just put that in there. This is the external power socket. I'll just solder the speaker on here. I think I'm done. I don't have a battery for these. They're not made anymore, of course. I struggled to think of a way of making a replica one, but I couldn't really do it. So I think what I'm going to do is just fit some auxiliary leads to plug in the normal 9-volt battery. Now, I don't know how long this will last. Just doing some calculations. It should last about 20 hours, but then I'd have to wait to see what happens there. Now, in the meantime, I've just connected my 9-volt power supply to it, and we'll see if this works still. Alright, power's on. That does work, good. Right, it does work. It won't work in here, there's too much stuff going on. So I'm going to fit one of these 9-volt battery snap-on battery connectors, and I'll take this outside and we'll give it a test run. I've mounted the 9-volt snap top there, put that in there, and I'm going to have to make a little tray or something for that to sit in so it doesn't move around and break things. I'll do that a bit later on. Okay, let's give this a go. I'll just turn it on.
Anyway, my dad's mate's gone, what happened to your car? You hear your car burning? And he's like, what do you mean? He's looked outside, he's got this big...
Dr. Hamdi.
And what about your husband?
Who would be there to help? Who don't want...
Well, that's picking up all the normal channels, so I think that's working pretty well.
I mean, you know, aspirations to be a journalist and a reporter. Do you know?
I don't know, I've always been interested in writing and that.
I didn't try and repair this dial, I'll just leave it the way it is. Where the stations are, it's actually in pretty good condition, so I'll just leave it like that. Well, there it is, an AWA from 1968 Australian-made transistor radio. It's the same model as I bought when I was 16, saved up my money and went up and bought it from the shop, and my first transistor radio. Big thanks to Ken for tracking this down for me. I apologise this video is not terribly interesting. I think the next radio I've got lined up is going to be a bit more interesting than this one, and I'm quite looking forward to doing it. So if you can, I hope you can join me for my next radio adventure.